The room went completely silent. No whispers, no movement, just the heavy sound of reality crashing down as K. Flock stood in the courtroom, facing the moment that would define the rest of his life. This wasn't a rap video. This wasn't social media. This was real, and everyone in that courtroom felt it. As the judge prepared to deliver the sentence, all eyes locked onto K. Flock, waiting to see how one of New York's most controversial drill rappers would react when the music stopped and the consequences arrived. For years, K. Flock's rise had been fast, loud, and unstoppable. From viral tracks to street credibility, he became a symbol of raw drill culture, unfiltered, aggressive, and fearless. Fans saw confidence, critics saw danger, but nobody expected the story to end here, in a silent courtroom where every second felt heavier than the last. The energy was different, gone were the crowds and cameras. What remained was a young man standing alone, confronted by decisions that could no longer be reversed. As the sentence was read, the courtroom reportedly froze. K. Flock's reaction wasn't explosive. There was no outburst, no dramatic collapse. Instead, it was the kind of reaction that hit harder, controlled, stunned, and deeply human. Some say his expression changed instantly. Others noticed the way his body stiffened, as if the weight of the words took a moment to fully sink in. In that silence, the reality of his situation became painfully clear, not just to him, but to everyone watching. Outside the courtroom, the internet erupted. Fans struggled to process how a rapper who once seemed untouchable had reached this point. Some blamed the system. Others blamed the streets. Many asked the same haunting question: was this always inevitable? K. Flock's case quickly became more than a sentencing. It became a symbol of how talent, trauma, and environment can collide with devastating results. In this video, we're breaking down exactly what happened inside that courtroom, what K. Flock's reaction revealed about his mindset, and why this moment marks a turning point not just for him, but for the entire drill rap conversation. Because when the courtroom went silent, it wasn't just listening to a sentence. It was witnessing the end of an era and the beginning of a harsh new reality. The day K. Flock walked into the courtroom, the atmosphere was already heavy. This wasn't just another legal update or procedural hearing. It was a final chapter approaching fast. Family members sat quietly, some staring straight ahead, others unable to look up at all. Supporters filled the benches with tension written across their faces, while prosecutors and defense attorneys prepared for a moment that would permanently reshape a young life. Everyone in that room understood the gravity of what was about to happen, and the silence before the judge spoke felt almost louder than any noise. K. Flock entered wearing jail attire, a stark contrast to the designer clothes and flashy visuals fans were used to seeing in his music videos. The transformation was jarring. Gone was the confident drill star pacing stages and flashing jewelry. In his place stood a restrained, focused figure who appeared to be bracing for impact. Observers noted how still he remained, how his eyes stayed forward, and how little emotion he showed outwardly. It was the posture of someone who already knew that whatever came next would change everything. As the judge reviewed the case, details of the charges and the evidence were revisited, grounding the courtroom in reality. Each word reinforced the seriousness of the situation, reminding everyone that this wasn't about lyrics or image. It was about real actions with irreversible consequences. The prosecution emphasized the severity of the crime, painting a picture of danger and responsibility. The defense countered by highlighting K. Flock's age, background, and potential for redemption, arguing that the system had failed him long before this moment. When the sentence was finally delivered, time seemed to slow down. The courtroom fell completely silent, as if everyone collectively held their breath. K. Flock's reaction was immediate but subtle. His jaw tightened, his shoulders stiffened. There was no outburst, no visible breakdown, just a quiet acceptance that spoke volumes. Those who expected anger or disbelief instead witnessed something far more unsettling: recognition. It was a look of someone realizing that the future they once imagined was no longer possible. Behind him, emotions rippled through the room. Some family members lowered their heads. Others wiped away tears in silence. The weight of the sentence didn't fall on K-Flock alone. It spread across everyone connected to him. This was the moment when hope collided with reality, and the outcome was final. Even seasoned courtroom observers noted how rare it was to see such a unified stillness, as if no one dared to interrupt the gravity of the decision. Outside the courtroom, the reaction was instant and explosive. News spread rapidly across social media, igniting debates that had been simmering for years. Fans expressed heartbreak, anger, and disbelief. Critics pointed to the dangers of glorifying violence. Artists, commentators, and cultural figures weighed in, turning K-Flock's sentencing into a broader discussion about drill culture, systemic issues, and the cycle of street influence and incarceration. His name trended not for music, but for a moment that marked a definitive end to his rise. Part 1 of this story isn't just about a sentence being handed down, it's about a turning point. It's about how quickly success can be overshadowed by consequences, and how silence can speak louder than any reaction ever could. K-Flock's courtroom moment didn't just close a case. It forced an entire culture to pause and reflect on what happens when potential meets irreversible reality. In the hours following the sentencing, the reality of what had happened began to sink in far beyond the courtroom walls. K-Flock was escorted out without spectacle, his expression still composed, almost unreadable. That quiet exit said more than any words could have. It marked the moment when the public image of a rising drill star officially gave way to the reality of incarceration. For many watching, it was the first time they truly understood how final the outcome was. There would be no quick appeal, no sudden reversal, no return to normal life anytime soon. Almost immediately, conversations erupted online about how K-Flock reached this point so quickly. His rise in New York's drill scene had been meteoric. In less than a year, he went from local buzz to industry attention, collaborations, and viral dominance. His music reflected the environment he came from: raw, aggressive, and unapologetically real. For fans, that authenticity was the appeal. For critics, it was a warning sign. In hindsight, many began re-examining his lyrics, videos, and public behavior, wondering if the warning signs had always been there. As commentators revisited his past, they pointed to the blurred line between art and reality that often defines drill culture. The genre thrives on lived experience, but that same closeness to real-life conflict can make it impossible to separate performance from behavior. K-Flock didn't just rap about violence, he was seen as embodying it. This perception, at the same time, others argue that focusing solely on K-Flock's choices ignored deeper systemic issues. Discussions shifted toward the lack of support structures for young artists rising out of high-risk environments. Sudden fame, money, and attention arrived without guidance, mentorship, or protection. Instead of being shielded from the dangers around him, K-Flock remained deeply connected to the same pressures that shaped his music. In that sense, some viewed his sentencing not just as punishment, but as a failure of the systems that allowed his situation to escalate unchecked. Family reactions also added emotional weight to the aftermath. Those close to K-Flock reportedly struggled with a mix of grief and resignation. The hope that something might change at the last moment vanished, replaced by the reality of years lost to incarceration. Their pain remained largely private, but its presence was felt in the broader conversation. Behind every headline was a family adjusting to a new reality, one that would affect them for decades to come. Within the music industry, the response was noticeably cautious. Some artists expressed sympathy without fully addressing the case, while others avoided commenting altogether. There was an unspoken understanding that K-Flock's story served as a warning. Success does not grant immunity. Labels, managers, and peers began reflecting on how quickly a promising career can collapse when legal consequences intervene. The silence from certain industry figures spoke just as loudly as public statements. By the end of the day, the narrative around K-Flock had shifted permanently. He was no longer just a rapper or a viral sensation. He had become a symbol of how talent can be overtaken by circumstance, how environment shapes outcomes, and how the courtroom ultimately holds more power than any stage. Part 2 of this story forces a difficult question. Was K Flock's fate the result of personal choices alone, or was it the predictable outcome of a system that offers success without safety? After the courtroom silence, the real weight of K Flock's sentencing began to hit home for everyone involved. It wasn't just a legal consequence. It was a cultural moment, a reflection of how quickly rising stars can fall when fame collides with reality. Fans, who had once celebrated his fast ascent, now found themselves grappling with a harsh truth. Talent and influence don't always protect you from the consequences of your environmental past actions. The stark contrast between his public persona and the image of a young man standing in front of a judge was jarring, and it forced a national conversation about the price of street credibility in the drill scene. The drill genre thrives on authenticity, aggression, and an unfiltered portrayal of life in certain neighborhoods. But K Flock's sentencing highlighted the dangers of those very qualities. It was a reminder that when music imitates life too closely, the line between performance and reality can vanish, and consequences become unavoidable. For those who had followed his journey closely, the moments leading up to the sentencing seemed almost inevitable. His meteoric rise, fueled by viral videos, streaming numbers, and collaborations with some of New York's biggest artists, had been nothing short of extraordinary. Yet behind the scenes, the pressures of constant attention, personal rivalries, and a lifestyle steeped in danger had been mounting for years. Critics and observers began dissecting every lyric, every music video, and even every social media post, searching for signs that the downfall was coming. While fans praised his authenticity, many analysts pointed to the way he allowed his life to be played out so publicly, arguing that exposure without strategy left him vulnerable. In hindsight, his trajectory became a case study in how rapid success, without guidance or protection, can intersect with real-world consequences in devastating ways. The public reaction was intense and immediate. Social media platforms exploded with commentary, ranging from empathy to harsh judgment. Some supporters argued that K Flock's sentencing was evidence of systemic failures, highlighting the lack of resources and mentorship for young artists emerging from high-risk communities. Others blamed him entirely, claiming that his choices and associations led him to this moment and that the legal system was simply doing its job. Influencers, bloggers, and even other artists contributed to the discussion, turning what might have been a private tragedy into a widely scrutinized cultural debate. The narrative was no longer just about a young man in trouble. It had become a national conversation about accountability, street culture, and the intersection of fame and legality. Behind the headlines and tweets, family and friends quietly felt the real human cost. Loved ones spoke of sleepless nights, ongoing worry, and the emotional toll of watching a promising life stall behind bars. Their grief was complicated, mixed with pride for his accomplishments, frustration at the circumstances, and sorrow for what could have been. Even without cameras of viral clips capturing the private moments, the emotional resonance of the sentencing rippled through his support system, leaving marks that would last far beyond the courtroom walls. The silence of the courtroom had transformed into an echo in real life, emphasizing how a single moment could redefine a life, a career, and an entire community's perception of someone they had once celebrated. Industry reactions further solidified the gravity of the moment. While some peers and collaborators offered cautious support, the overarching sentiment was clear. This was a warning for anyone navigating the fine line between underground credibility and mainstream success. Labels, managers, and producers took note, reflecting on how quickly a career built on virality could crumble when real-world consequences intervene. K Flock's case wasn't just a story about one artist. It became a cautionary tale for the industry at large, illustrating the challenges of navigating fame, legality, and personal accountability simultaneously. Part 3 of this story underscores a difficult truth. For artists like K Flock, the stage may be limitless, but the courtroom has boundaries that no viral moment can overcome. It is a moment of reckoning that will define not only his path forward, but also the broader conversation about drill music, fame, and responsibility for years to come. As the initial shock of K Flock's sentencing wore off, the the focus quickly shifted to the broader implications for the drill scene and the music industry as a whole. His case became a lens through which people began examining the consequences of rising too fast in a world that often blurs the line between performance and reality. Drill music thrives on authenticity, aggression, and raw storytelling. But for K-Flock, that authenticity came at a cost. Fans who once cheered his every move were forced to confront the fact that his lyrics and persona were more than just entertainment. They reflected the environment he had lived in and the dangers that accompanied it. Suddenly, the excitement of virality was replaced by the sobering reality that some aspects of life and street culture could not be escaped through fame alone. Inside the community, reactions were immediate and deeply emotional. Friends, neighbors, and fellow artists expressed disbelief, sorrow, and concern for his future. Many noted that while K-Flock had always been outspoken and unfiltered, this moment revealed a vulnerability that the public rarely saw. The once confident performer who dominated stages and social media was now defined by stillness, contemplation, and the heavy burden of consequences. Conversations on forums, Instagram, and Twitter highlighted how quickly adoration can turn into reflection when the spotlight shifts from talent to accountability. The sentencing wasn't just a legal milestone. It became a cultural checkpoint, forcing audiences to consider the real-life outcomes behind the music they consume. Industry insiders began analyzing the impact as well. Collaborators and peers acknowledged that K-Flock's trajectory had always been meteoric, but few had prepared for the reality of rapid fame intersecting with legal vulnerability. Labels and producers recognized the need for mentorship and guidance, reflecting on how young artists often find themselves navigating fame without the tools to protect themselves. Many described the sentencing as a wake-up call, not only for K-Flock, but for anyone in the industry who assumes that talent alone can shield them from life-altering consequences. The courtroom silence had echoed far beyond the walls of justice, serving as a warning that influence does not equate to immunity. Meanwhile, fans and media continued to dissect every facet of the case. Social media timelines flooded with commentary, some defending K-Flock's potential for redemption, others condemning his actions and questioning the culture that celebrates such intensity. The debate expanded to larger conversations about drill music, systemic pressures in urban environments, and the responsibilities that come with both fame and influence. Clips of courtroom reactions, analysis videos, and opinion threads created a narrative that no single party could control. What had begun as a private legal matter had now become a public spectacle, one that magnified scrutiny and amplified consequences for everyone involved. Perhaps the most striking element of this period was the human cost behind the headlines. Family members, friends, and supporters grappled with grief, worry, and frustration, recognizing that no viral moment could undo the reality of incarceration. For K-Flock himself, the silence of the courtroom likely offered a moment of reflection, a rare pause amid years of chaos, performance, and expectation. But for those watching from outside, it became a symbol of something larger: the fragility of opportunity, the weight of choices, and the unflinching truth that fame and influence cannot shield anyone from the real-world consequences of their actions. Part 4 underscores how one moment, one sentence, and one silent reaction can ripple outward, changing lives, perceptions, and an entire culture forever. As the weeks passed after the sentencing, the full impact of K-Flock's moment in the courtroom began to take shape. For fans, the initial shock had transformed into reflection and debate. No longer was this just a news headline. It had become a cultural moment, a cautionary tale about fame, choices, and consequences. Social media continued to buzz with analysis, reaction videos, and speculation about what the future would hold for him, his career, and the drill scene at large. The silence that had once dominated the courtroom now echoed across the internet, with thousands of voices weighing in, dissecting not only his reaction, but what it meant for the genre he represented and the streets he came from. Within the music industry, the fallout was immediate. Collaborators, producers, and labels began reassessing the risks associated with fast-rising talent from high-risk neighborhoods. K-Flock had become a symbol of both potential and vulnerability, a reminder that a meteoric rise could be undone by a single misstep or unaddressed circumstance. Conversations about mentorship, guidance, and protective structures for young artists intensified as executives and peers reflected on how quickly public personas could collide with legal realities. It was no longer just a personal case. It had become a lesson in crisis management, risk assessment, and the harsh realities of navigating fame under extreme scrutiny. Fans also grappled with the emotional toll. Supporters posted heartfelt messages, sharing admiration for his music while expressing concern for his well-being. Others took a harsher stance, criticizing his choices and the lifestyle that contributed to this outcome. Commentators noted that the divide among fans mirrored the larger societal debate. How much responsibility lies with the individual, and how much is shaped by the environment they emerge from. K-Flock's sentencing forced a complex conversation that went beyond celebrity gossip, sparking discussion about accountability, systemic pressures, and the delicate balance between talent and consequence in modern music culture. Meanwhile, the public perception of K-Flock shifted. Before the sentencing, he was celebrated primarily for his aggressive style, virality, and stage presence. Now, he was remembered as much for the courtroom silence, the moment of pause when reality hit, and the stark reminder of what life outside the music could look like. That reaction became symbolic, a human, vulnerable, and unexpectedly powerful display that resonated far beyond the walls of the courthouse. Videos of that moment circulated widely, each replay reinforcing the gravity of the event and the sobering lesson it carried about consequences and responsibility. Ultimately, Part 5 captures the aftermath of a pivotal moment in K-Flock's life. The courtroom silence wasn't just an isolated incident. It represented the intersection of fame, risk, and reality in a way that few public moments do. His sentencing reminded fans, artists, and the industry that no amount of talent or hype can shield someone from the consequences of their actions. As K-Flock begins the next chapter of his life behind bars, the conversation surrounding him will continue, an ongoing reminder that the line between success and downfall can be thinner than it appears, and that real-life consequences have a lasting impact on careers, communities, and culture alike. If you've been following K-Flock's journey, you already know this is more than just a headline. It's a wake-up call for fans, artists, and the entire music industry. From viral success to courtroom silence, his story highlights the harsh realities of fame, the consequences of choices, and the pressures young artists face every day. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about K-Flock's reaction in court? Could this moment have been avoided, or was it an inevitable outcome of his lifestyle? Drop your thoughts in the comments and join the conversation. Let's keep it real and respectful. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the biggest moments in hip-hop. Share this video with someone who's been following the story, because this conversation is far from over.